CBN insists and threatens to sanction anyone who spreads false speculation on Naira devaluation. CBN banks others to raise 1.5 trillion Naira to fund the infrastructure. Exploit outbreak to promote economic diversification, says Buhari. Stock market investors lose 456 billion Naira on Thursday. Well, thanks for joining me into this business. I am Mercy Frank. We're going to begin with trends in the economic industry here in Nigeria and other parts of the world. But let's begin with CBN's reaction to rumors about the Naira devaluation. The Central Bank of Nigeria has debunked speculations making the rounds and suggesting that the Naira is finally about to be devalued. Now, according to a statement which was released late Thursday evening, the Apex Bank blamed unscrupulous players in the foreign exchange market for spreading the rumor. The statement, which was signed by the Director of Corporate Communications, CBN, Isaac Okorafor, also noted that the false speculation had created panic in the exchange market. The Apex Bank said it is taking very calculated steps towards unraveling those responsible. In other words, the Apex Bank is working together with the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, and other relevant agencies to investigate and uncover those who are responsible for creating panic. Now, anybody found responsible for this will be made to face the law. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria is coordinating commercial banks, pension funds, and other financial institutions to raise 1.5 trillion Naira to fund road, power, and port facilities through a special purpose vehicle in collaboration with the federal government and key development finance agencies. The Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, said this on Wednesday night at a presidential dinner to round off the Going for Growth 2.0 roundtable organized by the bank, the Apex Bank in Abuja. Now, his soothing news came just as the Apex Bank said yesterday that the Naira was not in danger of devaluation, explaining that the nation's macroeconomic fundamentals remain very strong. Now, participants from the financial sector agreed to create a special purpose vehicle working with the federal government and key development finance agencies. The well-structured SPV will be used to mobilize close to 1.2 trillion Naira in funds from banks, pension funds, and other financial institutions to fund road, power, and port infrastructure. And these are 6 key road projects and the seaports that will be identified for the funding. With Nigeria currently in their need for upliftment with major economic indicators looking grim amidst increasing vulnerabilities, sharp decline in the price of crude oil, which is the country's major source of revenue, as well as the raging coronavirus, some policymakers and private sector operators who gathered at the Going for Growth 2.0 held in Abuja on Wednesday spent the entire day trying to fashion out strategies to ensure sustainable economic growth for the country. Now, key government officials and captains of industries made some pivotal points, and here are just a few of them. We'll begin from the Minister of Finance, and she said, quote, "For us, it was a shock and unexpected. We didn't think the price of oil would go as low as $30 per barrel, so it came to us as a great surprise." She continues to say, "These are very strong headwinds, and these headwinds reinforce a wake-up call for us as a country to look towards a life without oil. And the time to do that is now. But for all of us in this room," she said, "we have a responsibility to ensure that we do not spread panic and that we do not allow speculations which will not be in favor of our country." She said, "We need to put our hands together to weather the storm." We'll go to Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and he gave his position, and I quote, "One of the critical measures that helped to boost growth in 2019 was the impact of Central Bank's new minimum loan to deposit ratio, which was initially at 60% and subsequently raised to 65%. We also imposed restriction on access to OMO auctions in order to encourage banks to lend the real sector. Indeed, the banking sector has responded positively with rise to aggregate industry credit from 15.3 trillion naira in May 2019 to over 17.4 trillion naira in January 2020. He said, quote, "I am aware that these loans have been granted to borrowers across different sectors at considerably lower interest rates, although a lot more still needs to be done." I think he went down memory lane. We'll go to the Director General of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, that's Mili Kyari, and he said, I quote, "We used to say when the financial sector collapses, everything collapses, but certainly it is the other way around. When the Nigeria oil market collapses, everything collapses." He said, so oil is the only commodity that the beneficiaries panic when the price goes up. The assumption for this year was $60 per barrel. Now we are facing minus $30 per barrel, and potentially we haven't seen the bottom. Today, I can share with you that there are LNG cargoes that are stranded because there's an abrupt collapse in the demand associated with the coronavirus. We hope that this is the only reason. Today, for Nigeria's crude, we have about 50 cargoes that have not found landing. Oh, that doesn't sound very good for the economy. Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amaechi, has some axe to grind, and he said, I quote, "When we were to bring in the metals, the iron for the tracks, just to move it from China to Nigeria, I was excited to support a Nigerian company that has a shipping line to bring it from China to Nigeria. And you know what response we got? That there is a Chinese law that says only Chinese vessels can carry Chinese cargoes. Now, we had that law, but neither NNPC nor the Minister of Petroleum has refused to implement that law. Now, if you want to encourage private sector investment in Nigeria, then that law should be implemented." That's a call to action there. And Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, was pretty practical when he said, I quote, "This crisis will produce Nigeria's finest hours. We must not panic. If the human capital I see here consistently engages this crisis, we will have a workable outcome." He said, "When I came into this place, I had to use hand sanitizers imported from China. The ingredients are alcohol and berries. We have berries in Plateau and Ogogoro, which is the local name for alcohol, all over Nigeria. Why are our SMEs not making this hand sanitizers?" That is a good question there. Away from the ministries, the founder of Zenith Bank, Jim Ovia, took us down memory lane as he said, I quote, "In 2004, that's 2004, before consolidation, all Nigerian banks put together their total market capitalization, which was below 12 billion naira, and all of them put together could not lend 1/10 of what Dangote Cement required. But today, one of the top tier banks is much larger than the bank's shareholders fund put together in 2004, that's 2004. So that is a testimony that Nigerian banks are solid. We have even started to export our expertise to West and East African countries. Nigerian banks in Ghana are the ones showing the way. They didn't know about recapitalization until we taught them." Oh, that's some progress that our banks have made in there. The last person I would like to quote here is Aliko Dangote, one of Africa's successful businessmen, who hammered on diversification. And I quote what he said. Here's an excerpt of his speech. "The diversification of this economy is very important. In fact, we are late. Since 1979 that I came to Lagos, people have been talking about diversification of the Nigerian economy. You can only diversify the economy through manufacturing, agriculture, and agriculture. Manufacturing actually creates a lot of jobs, creates middle class, and also transforms countries. These are areas we need to really focus on. But how do you diversify an economy and go into manufacturing that makes sense and also makes it an inclusive growth? Then you need to actually do what we call backward integration or import substitution. Well, as you know, for the crash of the oil price, it is imperative that we diversify this economy. Wow. Interesting statement from both the ministers of government and also some of these captains of industries. And we move over to the impact of coronavirus in Nigeria and what President Buhari's response was. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday appealed to members of the private sector to join hands with the federal government to maximize the negative impact of the outbreak of the coronavirus on the global economy by intensifying moves to diversify the economy, reduce the reliance on oil, and boost investment in agriculture. Now, he told guests on Wednesday night at a dinner in Abuja to conclude the Going for Growth 2.0 roundtable session that the fall in the prices of crude oil in the international market following the spread of disease has heightened the country's economic challenges, orchestrated the necessity to increase investment in agriculture in the country's drive for self-sufficiency in food production. The president said the last recession witnessed by the economy was conquered by the fiscal and monetary policies of the federal government, which according to him aided gross domestic product through steady performance by key sectors of the economy in the past 11 quarters. He said the government remains steadfast in seeking to promote the growth of the Nigerian economy and, by extension, the growth of the Nigerian private sector. He added that he was glad to note that following the recent recession, which was supported by growth-enhancing fiscal and monetary policy measures, the GDP growth has remained positive territory for the past 11 quarters. Yes, that's a very hopeful. That's a very hopeful thought there from the president. We should go for a short break, and when we come back, we're going to look at more issues from the Security Exchange Commissions and more reactions, and then we'll move to the interview. So let's go for the short break. We'll be back. It's Today's Business. All right, welcome back. It's still Today's Business. We'll move over to commodities from the Securities Exchange Commissions. Now, the Commission has said Nigeria is set to build a robust commodities market across the country. And the Acting Director General of the Commission, Mary Udok, disclosed this in a press briefing in Abuja. Correspondent Gabrielina Abiele compiled this report.
Nigeria is blessed with several resources that can boost her economic growth. However, an over-reliance on one product, oil, has meant other sectors have never been fully exploited. The solid mineral sector could generate billions of naira for the country, but until now, it has not been well organized.
It is high time we created a market where they would be traded in an orderly manner to the benefit of the Nigerian economy. A structured market for commodities would provide a fairer playing field for local market participants while providing the required infrastructure for the international markets.
To this end, stakeholders are expected to converge in Abuja on the 16th of March to brainstorm on diversifying the Nigerian economy and building a structured commodities market.
Stakeholders encompass the policymakers, the industrialists, the commodities, or everybody around the commodities ecosystem generally is a stakeholder. And we've invited them, and also members of the public that are very critical, to the entire commodities trading.
The DG says the aim is to create an enabling environment for the deployment of innovative solutions and improve processes, productivity, and the partnerships available in the market.
The capital market has the capacity to unlock better access to credit and finance for the sector through innovative financing structures and products.
The agenda at this meeting will center around the commodities ecosystem. Experts will brainstorm on identified challenges with a view to encourage product innovation, market development, and how to attract more investors.
And now to oil issues. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and National Gas Workers has called on the Securities Exchange to the Senate, to amend the Labour Act to criminalize casualization of workers in Nigeria. Now, they urge that the bill meets presidential assent before the end of the second quarter of 2020. Now, the national president of NUPENG, Williams Aporeha, the Secretary General Afolabi Olawale, who hailed the House of Representatives for initiating the bill, affirmed that it is a new dawn in the industrial relations practice in Nigeria whereby workers' confidence could be restored. They also said it is a period where workers will no longer suffer indecent workplace treatment, job insecurity, and other forms of precarious work conditions that often expose them to health risk, exploitation, and depression, among others, while calling on other lawmakers to speedily support the bill, which has scaled through the second reading. The oil workers urged that employers who dissuade workers from getting unionized should also be sanctioned and penalized. According to them, casualization of workers has regrettably accentuated the increasing levels of crimes and social dislocation Nigeria is currently experiencing. Still on oil, Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa says the dwindling oil price will adversely affect the implementation of the 2020 budget. He said this during the first quarterly media chat of the year. The governor added that disruption in the budget will affect infrastructural development. Now, he spoke on security challenges, but expressed the government's commitment to securing life and property. And
now that we have a marked reduction in global economy, resulting in the fact that most of our oil is not being sold and the prices have also gone down as a result of the block, it's obvious that each and every one of us, as states and as a nation, will obviously have challenges even in the implementation of the budgets of the year. And we have to be able to wait for the federal government to arrive at a new benchmark price for oil, because it is that figure that we will use as states in considering what likely revenue allocation we are going to get in the remaining months of the year 2020.
And over now to the power sector, reports say Nigeria's power sector has lost no less than 117.8 billion naira to gas shortages and others between January to March 10, 2020. This was disclosed in the review of the sector in the outgoing first quarter 2020 by the Federal Ministry of Power. Now, the development shows that the sector lost as much as 2 billion naira daily in some days during the period under review, with the lowest loss pegged at 1.47 billion naira on February 4, 2020. Now, data obtained from the Ministry and Transmission Company of Nigeria, that's TCN, and the presidency showed that the sector started with a loss of about 54.32 billion naira in the first month of the year. Now, the random peak of daily losses in January 2020 showed a loss of 1.88 billion naira on January 1st, 1.6 billion naira loss on January 13, and 1.77 billion naira loss on January 13. Now, February 3 recorded a loss of 1.6 billion naira, while 1.96 billion naira was lost on Valentine's Day, that's February 14, and 2.1 billion naira on the last day of the month. The first 6 days in the month of March showed that the industry lost 2.21 billion naira, 2.21 billion naira, and 1.97 billion naira and 1.87 billion naira, as well as 1.93 billion naira, respectively, during the 6-day period. Oh, that's a huge loss there. That's a very huge loss. Oh, now let's go over to the ASU and the federal government squabble over the IPPS payment platform. The federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, on Thursday agreed to find ways of reconciling the two salary payment platforms, that's the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPPIS, and the University Transparency and Accountability System, UTAS. Now, both sides said they have reached a memorandum of understanding to settle the issue. which led to the commencement of a 2-week warning strike by the university lecturers last Monday. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, who briefed journalists shortly after the 5-hour meeting between government team and the ASU leaders, said that the meeting resolved modalities will be set out on how to merge IPPIS and the UTAS. He said the talks have been adjourned till either Monday or Tuesday next week to enable ASU to consult with his leadership across board to come up with suggestions on how to achieve the merger. On his part, ASU National President Professor Abiodun Ogunyemi said the meeting agreed to work out means of accommodating the variations contained in the two systems with a view to marrying them. Finally glad that both of them have come to an agreement and our students can actually move forward. Over to depreciation of the naira against the dollar. The massive crash in crude oil price and the constant pressure on the country's foreign reserve due to the Central Bank of Nigeria's sustained intervention in the market is having negative effect on the value of the naira. Now, the severe pressure from Nigeria's foreign exchange to market has led to significant depreciation of the naira across all the market segment. It was reported that the naira yesterday depreciated at 9 naira against the dollar in the parallel market. This happens to be its biggest fall against the dollar since 2017, as the exchange rate rose sharply from 366 naira to 375 naira per dollar as of Thursday. The investors and exporters window, the exchange rate lost 1.58 naira as it rose to 368.33 naira per dollar from 366.75 naira per dollar. This is also the biggest daily depreciation that the window has witnessed since 2017 when it was introduced. Quite a sad one day and very gloomy. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with more stories. This is Today's Witness. Keep listening.